Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Wednesday, March 8th. Ian Cameron, Conor, MEAC, ready to break down the Wednesday college basketball card. Today is the day you really feel it. It's conference tournament week. The games are rolling day and night, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, all the way till, well, pretty much 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern before all these games are going to be over, if you factor in when that last Pac-12 game is going to wrap up tonight. So it's a basketball fan and bettor's dream and delight. Conference tournament week this week, wall-to-wall action. We're going to go through the majority of the rest of the games. We can't get through all of them, but we'll do the big conferences certainly. And we'll also throw in Lafayette-Colgate on the first segment because it is a championship game there in the Patriot League with a bid to the tournament decided there. So with that in mind, let's get to it. We'll start with the ACC tournament. We've got second round action, 2 games tonight. Boston College, North Carolina. We've got the Tar Heels, 11.5-point home favorites, 138 the total in this game. In all honesty, Conor, MEAC, I'm taking BC. I'm going to North Carolina, obviously, if they are going to be in the tournament, everybody seems to believe, and I think it's true, they've got to win this entire tournament probably to get in. They've got to get the automatic bid. I don't think there's any pathway for them to be an at-large team. That's how disappointing they've been this year, the Tar Heels. But must win doesn't mean win by 12 points. You know, there's a lot of points for a team that offensively they haven't looked right. They haven't been shooting the ball all that well. And Boston College, for as up and down a season as they've had, I actually like their form a little bit coming down the stretch of the regular season. Boston College, competitive, not really being blown out or overwhelmed by the opposition. They had a comfortable blowout win against Louisville, 80-62 in the first round yesterday. They've covered 4 of their last 5 games. I just think here BC can do enough to stay inside 11.5 here in this game, the way they've played lately. And the nice thing about that 18-point win is that Earl Grant, the head coach, can take the starters out early, keep them fresh, keep them a little bit better, more rested, and again, fresher for the second game in the back-to-back here tonight against North Carolina. So I'm going to take BC here. Double digits. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, North Carolina needs to win this. It's a little bit out there, though. They won by 11 and by 8 this year, I think. Or was that one even last year? The one that was 11? Yeah, that was last year. They lost by 8.
Yep.
BC's gone a little bit over, and Carolina, to a tad bit's trended under, especially lately. They don't shoot well. We talked about it a ton. They should be able to pound it inside, but I think BC can hang around in this game. And this isn't one I'm going to go full game just so they could maybe backdoor it a little bit. So, yeah, I agree with you here. I take those 11.5.
Yeah, I'm done with first halves. I took a first half full game split with Georgia Tech earlier today, and they ended up both losing, but I was closer to winning the full game than I was the first half. So, I feel that just go with the full game, I should say. And that's what I'm going to do here with BC in this one. All right, next up, also ACC tournament, Virginia Tech, NC State. NC State 2.5-point favorites, 146 being the total in this game. Interesting matchup here when you look at it. I think when it's all said and done, I mean, Virginia Tech, I think, has got the potential to go on a bit of a run in this tournament personally. Now, it wasn't easy for them against Notre Dame, but they didn't play great, and they still won. I think there's so much room for improvement. They're catching points here, and I think there's a real possibility they could win this game here against NC State. It won't be easy. The Wolfpack too, that's the one thing that concerns me about this matchup. They're a press team. They force turnovers. Virginia Tech usually protects the basketball pretty well, and that should, in theory, bode well for them here in this game tonight. It was a 4-point win for NC State in January over Virginia Tech, but keep in mind Virginia Tech was in a little bit of a funk at that time. That was also earlier in the season when they had a couple of key pieces out of their lineup due to injury, including Couture. So for Virginia Tech, I think now a little bit better in terms of their personnel situation this time around against NC State. They've won 3 in a row, heating up. NC State kind of limping their way into this tournament after losing to Clemson and Duke. I like the points here with the Hokies. Conor, what do you think?
When they get together, too, they're pretty close games. You mentioned NC State's 4-point win earlier. I think they're a little bit better, and a lot of the time I've faded Virginia Tech. Even last night I talked about it. I just couldn't lay the points with them. They are catching, 2.5 here, but I don't trust them. I think it's a spot for NC State to take care of business. Joyner, these guys, I think they get it done. So yeah, I'll lay the 2.5 with NC State.
All right, the lone remaining game today in the Mountain West, the first round. There's 2 games this afternoon. There's one more tonight. It's Wyoming and New Mexico. We've got New Mexico 9-point favorites, 147.5 the total in this game. Over appeals to me here, just because anytime I see New Mexico totals below 150, my first inclination is bet the over. It's just the way it is with this team. I think it could get there here in this game. I don't want to lay 9 with New Mexico. Should they win the game? Yes. But I don't want to lay this many points with them, not with the way their form kind of trended downward a little bit late in the season. Wyoming, they've had so many injuries. Wyoming's the wild card team here. You're either totally spent, you've had tons of injuries, you haven't had a good season, and you're ready for the season to end. And maybe you're just going to pack it in. And if you fall behind big in this game, you're just going to, wave the white flag and go home if you're Wyoming. Or maybe that's a chance to hit the reset button now. Conference tournament. Let's give it a go. Let's play hard here, however many games we have remaining. So it could go either way with a team like Wyoming. I kind of think with a good coach, he gets the troops to, still battle, even though it's been a trying season for Wisconsin. And I like Linder. I think Jeff Linder's a good coach. So I'm actually tempted to take Wyoming getting this number, but just a lean for now. What do you think here, Conor? Wyoming, New Mexico.
Yeah, it is a little bit of revenge. Wyoming beat them and only held them to 56 points. That's when they were dealing with some of the injuries, was New Mexico. Just 2-3 weeks ago. Still, they have Maldonado. I think this might be just too many points. So I know at the Thomas and Mack there, it can be pretty quiet. There's not a ton of people there.
I was watching that Colorado State Fresno State game earlier today. It's a Halloween costume party at the Thomas and Mack Center. Everyone's dressed as empty seats.
Yes, there's nobody there. And a tournament game like this, New Mexico is better, but good luck if you want to lay the points. Yeah, and I'm not too impressed with Wyoming, but I'd lean that way with them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's you would think. Actually, there's more people there now. UNLV's playing there right now against Air Force, so there's a few more people.
They're not getting many people. Crowd. Yeah. Like, it would be better. UNLV was the night game, even a day game. I know there's not a ton of people there.
No. I know it's based on the bracket and the seating in terms of the scheduling of the times for these games, but still, you'd think they'd make a concession for UNLV, get them at the night game, because they're the home team. But no, they stuck them out there at 1:30 Pacific, 1:30 local time there in Las Vegas here playing Air Force in a game that's very close right now. And I'm hoping it stays close as someone that's on Air Force plus the points there against UNLV. Yeah. Hopefully that game does stay competitive. Colorado just beat Washington, by the way, 73-68. I split out that game. I had Washington. I had the over, though. The over got there. At 136, it just got over the
huge second half. We'll talk about that in some of those games too at T-Mobile later.
Yeah, that's another thing too, and that goes back to our point. Just take the freaking first half on. If you like an under in these conference tournaments, you really should look more first half. You really, really should, because like I say, sometimes these second halves can explode, and you get the fouling situation late because these teams, there's no tomorrow for them in these games. So all the more reason look first half under if you like them. All right, this game is starting in like 15 minutes at the Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden. First round game here, DePaul and Seton Hall. Seton Hall down 4.5-point favorites, 137.5 the total. I took the Blue Demons here, DePaul. Look at the series history. Just look at it. It's all DePaul. DePaul has been a problem for Seton Hall in every single recent game. Now, I know DePaul just got their doors blown off a couple games down the stretch, and that's the one concern I have. But one thing about DePaul is I think they've covered some number. They usually lose the first game or two in the Big East, but they've often been big underdogs, and they've covered some of these numbers if you go back and look in recent years. And if you look at, again, the head-to-head with Seton Hall, it's been DePaul dominance. They've won a bunch of the games straight up. They've covered every recent head-to-head meeting against a Seton Hall, including earlier this year. So I thought when it opened at 5.5, 6 on Seton Hall, I thought it was a little too high. And certainly there's people that agree because it's down to 4.5 now. But I did take DePaul here, plus the points. Conor, what do you think?
That's the one thing here. This line is right there. You mentioned the games that have been tight. They're all like 4 or 5 point games. There's a 2 in there, 6. It's not enough for me. I think this is really sharp. I don't blame you for it. And you already touched on it, how bad they played down the stretch, DePaul, the last few games. But this is a restart for everyone that's, in these conference tournaments. So, they should be pumped for it. I don't blame you for taking the points. And on the flip side, Seton Hall they're not a team I want to lay points with the way they score. I can't do it.
All right, we move on now to the another Big East tournament first round game later tonight. Georgetown, Villanova. Villanova 11.5-point favorites, 141.5 the total in this game. This is kind of like the last game where I think we know Villanova's the better of these two teams, but look at the Georgetown Villanova recent series history. Georgetown's been a problem for Villanova, just not in terms of winning. Villanova still won, I believe, 5 of the last 6 meetings, but since 2022, Villanova did win by 11, and they won by 8 after that. But Georgetown got point spread covers. Earlier this year, the last meeting, Georgetown lost by 4, to this Villanova team. And again, then they lost by 8 last year at Villanova, by 11. We're putting a big number out there here, in my opinion, on Villanova here. Now, Georgetown's a team, I worry about, have they let go of the rope a little bit? Those last 2 games against Providence and Creighton, outscored by 187 to 127 in those 2 games. Pretty ugly, losing by an average of 30 points per game. And have they just quit on Patrick Ewing? Have they quit on this season? I am concerned about that, but man, I am very, very tempted based on series history and how the Hoyas have played the Wildcats tough to take Georgetown, getting 12 now in some spots. Connor, what do you think?
I get it, but I can't take Georgetown. I'm not going to do it. I think Nova wins is just if they can cover this number. One thing with it, I think if you like Villanova off that loss to UConn, I'd look at them early. I would take them first half. This is one I almost have played here. If I like the favorite, I'd take Nova first half and lay the points. And one thing with Villanova, too, number 1 free throws still. So they can hit those down if you got to lay a number. But it's a ton of points, full game.
All right, good stuff. Indeed, it is a lot of points, no doubt. All right, we move to the Pac-12 now. This game is starting pretty soon. Colorado, Washington just ended. This game is next up in about 30 minutes. California and Washington State. We have the Cougars laying 12-13 in this game. Total is around the 130s. This is what I'm passing on. I try to make a case for a dog of this size, but there's been many games where Cal's lost by like 20 or 30. When they've been a dog of this magnitude. I can't do it. I just don't trust them offensively. And the one thing, too, is if they're behind by like 15 or 20 points, they don't have the offensive punch to get through the back door. That's another thing. I want a team that can score a little bit. Like Georgetown can score a little bit. If they fall behind by 15, they can find their way to some offense and get you back door cover. Cal can't do that. So that's why I'm off this game. It's Washington State probably wins. It's probably a matter of what's the margin of victory. What do you think here, CMAC? I lean under, actually, in this game.
Yeah, I looked at the other, and they just played February 25th, 63-57. Yeah. I see it similar. They did just score 66 at Oregon State, but I don't know if they break 60 here, especially Washington State all year long has been a very good under team. So even their team total, I look at the under. I think it's just too many. You mentioned I was going to bring up some of these losses, like 6 there. These are 4. 4, blah, blah. But some of the losses are just blowouts. Now, they've been the better teams like SC, 97-60, 78-43 against UCLA. But I lay the point. I take the points with Cal. It's just ugly. It's just, it's a lean for me. Take the points.
All right, taking the points here for Connor Mack, and this one leaning to Cal, but it's an ugly, ugly dog for sure. All right, Stanford, Utah. This is the first of the 2 night games here in the Pac-12 tournament. This is, of course, as it always is, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Connor's backyard, home of the Vegas Golden Knights, home of many of the UFC pay-per-views as well. We've got here in this one, Pick'em here with Stanford, Utah, 136 the total here in this game. This is one where really is a coin flip, and I can totally get why the point spread is where it is. These teams up and down all year. But the one thing here is you look at down the stretch, Utah got healthier, including Gabe Madsen, who is huge for this basketball team, finally returned from injury. I think it makes them a better team, and I think there may be some value on Utah today and moving forward now that they're a little bit healthier than they were just a couple of weeks ago. I think that's enough to push me into the direction, at the very least, of leaning to the Utes here. at a pick'em to get the win against Stanford. I think they're a better team now that they're healthier, including Madsen back on the floor. Haven't bet it yet, but I'm kind of leaning in that direction to take Utah here, just asking them to win the game at a pick'em. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, getting him just somewhat healthy is big because Utah really limped to the finish line. I mean, would they lose their last 5 games? It was not pretty for them, but restart here. I thought Stanford played all right down the stretch. This one's tough for me. I look at the under. This is one I wanted to talk about. Maybe go first half under. Utah's still very, very slow, as we just saw in that last game. Way under the Colorado 28-20 and tons of points late in that game. So I'm looking at the first half under, and I'm going to stay off the side. It's tough. I think it's kind of a coin flip. I'd lean Stanford.
All right, leaning toward Stanford here, and I'm leaning toward Utah. And again, Utah didn't play well down the stretch, but let's see them now with a full artillery on hand if they are a little bit better now. All right, Oregon State, Arizona State in the very late game here at T-Mobile Arena, 8:30 p.m. Pacific. We've got Arizona State 11-point favorites, 131 the total. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Roxy Bernstein and Bill Walton calling this one. That's always good for laughs on the Pac-12 network, but you look at this one here with Arizona State and Oregon State. Arizona State losing 2 in a row to end the season against the LA schools, USC, UCLA. Oregon State, they did win their finale to break a 4-game losing streak, but it was against Cal, who's probably the one team that's even worse than them here in the Pac-12. They lost every other game, and 3 of those by double digits. They did cover in a loss against Oregon, but it's tough to get there with Oregon State. Last meeting against Arizona State won by 11, 68-57. It's funny, Oregon State actually did cover both meetings this year against Arizona State. Do you take the points? Do we trust Oregon State? More than that, do we trust Arizona State laying a big number? I'll say this about Arizona State. They were 9.5-point favorites at Cal on the road. They won in overtime. They were 12.5-point favorites against this Oregon State team. They won by 11. So I have no interest in Arizona State laying this many. Can you get there with Oregon State's the question. I think I might get there in this game with the over just because of how low this number is. I mean, Arizona State games almost always get at least into the 130s. And we're talking about 131 being the total here. And meanwhile, Oregon State down the stretch started to trend over. 4 of their last 5 games went over the total for the Beavers late in the season. So the lean for me is Oregon State, but I think the total's better in terms of the better betting option here. Over 130.5, 131 seems light. I think it can get over that number. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Let's give a quick shout out to the chat. Hit the like button. Rocco, Nasty Nate. Shout out to Vince Ramirez with the $4.99 dono. Thank you, my man. We appreciate Real Deal Prime.
Appreciate it.
The Grinder up in here. Don Play. Troy. What's going on? Lucas R. As always. Brian Watson. Joey. Shout out Tone Miggins. My guy. Tone, what's going on? David. Michael. Christopher Coventini. Shout out to all you guys. Hit the like button. Mike M. Pimp Slap Play of the Day. He likes Utah. Right on. I'd go the other way, but I don't love it on the total. I'm not going to get there. I lean under. You're right, though. Arizona State games, for the most part, went over this number, Bavano. A lot of them. Last time they played, though, 68-57. We'll see. I really don't love it. Oregon State's really got me. I'm probably 500 with them. It's that thing. They've covered for me in a close game, lose by 5, maybe win, lose by 7, or they've gotten the doors blown off. Bad shooting team. So if you're willing to take this bad shooting team and the 11 points and just plug your nose, if you want to take them. But right now I'm off.
All right, off this game. Yeah, it is a tricky one for sure. Yeah, if you're on that UNLV Air Force under, I mean, what are you at? 46 points at halftime. Yeah, you're in pretty good shape right now with that. That was a dead nuts under there. Yeah, 24-22 for UNLV at halftime. Leading Air Force there in the Mountain West tournament. So if you're on that under, you're in good shape right now. All right, next up, Big Ten tournament. First of 2 Big Ten first-round games, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Ohio State 2-point favorites here, and the total 130. This is, of course, at the United Center in Chicago. It almost always is in Chicago or Indianapolis. Sometimes they have it in Indianapolis, but Chicago this year for the Big Ten tournament. I'm not laying points with Ohio State. It's a question of, do I want to take Wisconsin? That's what it boils down to here. Do I take Wisconsin here? I'm tempted, but I don't really love either of these teams. Quite honestly, I'd rather bet against both of these teams than bet on them. Lean Wisconsin. Not sure if I'll pull the trigger though. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I don't want either. Too. You guess you're just taking faith. You think Ohio State's just gonna kind of outscore Wisconsin? They haven't been good at any place, and they weren't great at home. They were a little bit better. This team was bad on the road. Obviously, Key's not there. This open one, the money's on Wisconsin, but it moved to 2. Ohio State, I don't know. Just doesn't look right. I'd like to take Wisconsin, but I think in the end, I'll just be off. Whiskey or nothing.
I agree. Wisconsin or nothing. All right. Next up, we've got Minnesota, Nebraska. Nebraska here, 5.5-point favorites, 137.5 the total in this game. I took that Minnesota team in their finale against Wisconsin. They snuck inside the number for a point spread cover. Boy, oh boy, I think maybe they might be worth a look here again. They did, they beat Rutgers and they took Wisconsin down to the wire. In fact, they led for a good portion. I think Minnesota's worth a look here. Plus 5.5, plus 6. They don't look like they've quit on the season or their head coach, Rodney Williams. I don't see anything like that here going into this game tonight with Minnesota, Nebraska. I think they're still playing hard. Nebraska's not a team defensively. The defensive woes are back for Nebraska. They just got shredded up by Michigan State and Iowa in their last 2 games to end the season, and they're been over this team, Nebraska, down the stretch. And the same damn thing with Minnesota. This total's been hammered.
Take the over.
This total's been hammered for a reason, Connor. My first thought was, wow, early this morning when I first looked into this game, I'm like, boy, people really love this over, 134.5 to 137.5. Then I did my digging and looked into it. I'm like, holy fuck, now I know why they like the over. Both of these teams just over, both of them. And both of them, the defense is just falling apart on both sides. So I like Minnesota plus points, and I like this over. It's moved a little. I still think it can get there, 137.5. Connor, what do you think?
It's a little up there now. This just could be like 70, 65, 66, something like that.
Could be.
The one thing, Nebraska, I think wins the game. I can't lay, though, points with them. Now, all of a sudden, you want them to win by 6? Neutral floor. I think they've played better. Down the stretch, I've took them a ton as dogs, but I can't here. And I really don't love Minnesota either. So, free bet, I'd probably take the points, but I'd be off.
All right. This isn't on the list, but I'll throw it out there. You know what? We won't do a Q&A or anything like that. We'll go through every game here on the show in this segment. But just quickly, quick hitter on the A10 second round game. There's only one Atlantic 10 game left. LaSalle, Duquesne. Duquesne 7-point favorites. I like Duquesne to win this game. I think they're just much better than LaSalle. Although you never count out a team that's coached by Fran Dunphy. That guy's been around a long time. And, LaSalle did play a little bit better down the stretch. Could they go on a run? Yeah, but I think it ends here. I think Duquesne's the better team. Do I want to lay 7? No, but I'll put Duquesne in maybe a couple money line parlays. I think this game could get over the total because 146 and Duquesne doesn't mind getting up and down the court. Got a really good offense, so I lean to the over there. Connor, anything there? LaSalle, Duquesne.
I think Duquesne is better, but there's no way I'm laying points. No frickin' way am I going to do it. I think this one can go either way, so I'd take the points with LaSalle. Too sloppy, though, with the basketball, and tough to count on. When they're odd shooting, they'll win this game outright. So maybe if you just take some money line, a little more than extra with the points. But, yeah, I'll pass.
So I've been leery of betting overs in the Atlantic 10 because it's been under City so far in this conference tournament, yesterday and so far today. But I did like the over in the game that's on now, St. Joe's and George Washington. And I like this over, too. So let's see if maybe the under streak gets snapped here at Barclays Center here in the Atlantic 10. All right, next up, let's go through these quick hitter. Conference USA first round, Ford Center at the Star, Frisco, Texas. Now, this is a weird backdrop. This is always that tournament where they have the 2 courts in the same arena, and they've got one game going on, then they put like a curtains up or a divider. That's what they call it, a divider up, and then they put another game on the other court in the same venue. So it's a weird setup here for the Conference USA tournament, but we've got UTEP, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, Florida International, UTSA, Rice. I'm leaning UTEP. I'm leaning mining for profits with the Miners now that it's plus 2.5 against Western Kentucky. I don't trust this Hilltoppers team. They've been way too schizophrenic for my liking so far this season. And I like the over in the last two games. Louisiana Tech, Florida International. I think it could get over 141.5. And I definitely like the over in UTSA Rice. Those are two teams that get up and down the court, and neither one can play defense consistently. What do you think there in the in Conference USA?
Yeah, and to pick them, I liked Western Kentucky here. And it's stretching it to 2.5. They usually took good care of this UTEP team that can struggle to score at times, but they have a solid defense. They're really slow. And Western Kentucky off that last game, 33 points in North Texas. I think they come out a little bit hot. Maybe even look at them first half. Are we going through all three of these? Louisiana Tech, FIU. I like FIU a little bit in this game. Totals it's up to 142. It's only gone up a point. I'd lean over in that game, but I'm not playing it.
All right. And UTSA Rice, anything there for you?
Oh, yeah, this one. Rice is laying, and this is moved, Babana. Yeah, this one's a scratcher to me. It was like the other day of North Dakota State. So, they split the series, and the other game went to
the Roadrunners now at this number.
You got to. If you can get a 7, I'm taking them. Yeah. This total is right there. I still think, these are two just over teams. You sure know, probably, Babana. You play these two teams over. If you got 152, 152.5, it could get there. It is up there. But yeah, that overtime game, these teams are sloppy defensively. I don't think Rice is that much better than. And then overtime game, they won by 7, but it went to OT. It was down the stretch in the other game. UTSA took care of them. So yeah, if I got the 7 right here, I'm going to take them.
All right, we go to the Metro Atlantic second round or quarterfinal action. Mount St. Mary's, Iona, St. Peter's, Rider. We've got. I'm not stepping in front of Iona, not yet anyway. I just don't trust Mount St. Mary's enough. I don't. They were fortunate as shit to Canisius essentially blew that game yesterday against Mount St. Mary's. Thankfully, I had Canisius +2, and they lost by 1. So we still got the money with Canisius. But they should have won that game. No way Mount St. Mary's should have won that. They blew it more than Mount St. Mary's won it. I think Iona probably sends them home. Kind of lean to the over or Iona team total over in this game. And then the other one, look, don't sell St. Peter's short. We've seen this team. Now, they're not the team they were last year when they won this tournament and made the big NCAA tournament run, but they've got the makings of the makeup to be a team that won yesterday and now can go on a run. They beat Fairfield. Maybe they give Rider a game here in this one. Now, Rider beat them twice this season, but I kind of look past that. St. Peter's is built for success in conference tournaments. Slow it down, play defense. Keep it close. I think they do that here. I like the Peacocks, 6.5, 7 against Rider. What do you think here in the Metro, CMAC?
Yeah, it's already stretched out to 14.5. This is like if Iona's on it or not. It's like the blowout or they're asleep and Mount St. Mary's cover. And that's what happened in the two meetings. One was a 30-point blowout. The other one, they would cover the summer. I think they lost by 8 or something like that. On the flip side of this other game, Rider didn't cover numbers all year. They're the better team, and I took a few times where they did and got lucky because in this conference we talk about all the time, take the points. This was a strong lean for me, which is St. Peter's team that can struggle to score. They played better down the stretch though and started scoring a little bit more, found their offense a little bit. Rider's better. I lean St. Peter's in that game, and even the under. It's at 126.
Very low at 126 with the under. First half under, probably, if you like that under in that game, is probably preferred. All right, SEC tournament, first round, Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. Ole Miss, South Kakalaki. We got Ole Miss 7-point favorites, 133.5 the total. There's no way I'm laying 7 with Ole Miss. That's just not going to happen here. Yeah, already fired a coach for crying out loud. Now we're laying 7 with this team in a neutral court on a conference tournament. No way. No way. You might be able to play South Carolina here. This is a team that's bad too. They're bad teams. Let's be honest. That's why they're playing each other in the first round of their conference tournament. They're bad basketball teams. But nevertheless, I think what we've seen here enough from South Carolina is we've seen some fight. We've seen them try, compete. That might be all they need to do because they beat Georgia in their finale. They lost by 6 at Mississippi State. After that horrible 40-point loss at Tennessee, this team's given some effort here. They're actually 7-2 ATS in their last 9 games. They beat Ole Miss. They beat LSU. They took Alabama, the number 1 team in this number 1 seed in this conference tournament, to overtime just recently. I think there's reasons to like the Cox here. Gamecocks, South Kakalaki +7. I certainly prefer that side. What do you think here, CMAC?
I'm on it. I took the 7. There's Ole Miss. These teams are a little bit similar, records. South Carolina better against the number. I want that team, and just probably a slow. Look at this game, first half under. They want to, as long as they control the pace, this will go under in this one. So yeah, I already took the 7, South Carolina.
All right, taking the 7 with South Carolina for Conor Mack. I agree with that. LSU, Georgia. LSU 3-point road favorites, 141.5 the total here in this game. I think as far as LSU is concerned, this is another team that's had a dismal season. I mean, they're now laying 3. Do you realize that away from home they're 0-9? They're actually 3-10 away.
I know, they took all the money.
Yeah, and they're taking the money. People are laying. What a world! People are laying points here with LSU right now. Not me. I don't want Georgia, though, either. Georgia's 0-5 straight up, 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 games, limping down the finish of the season. Mike White, not the answer as the coach there. I thought didn't like the hire, and now we're seeing why. Over for me, because LSU, I think, has just said, you know what, let's try to outscore teams. Their defense is still giving up 82, 77, 82, 81, 79. I mean, LSU's not stopping anybody. I think there's just 2 bad teams. They score some points. I would play over or nothing at all in this game. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, on the total, if this was a little bit lower, I'd like that over. That 138 range, 137. There still might be, and it could get over. Right when it opened, I'm like, LSU is playing better. I think they're the better team all around. But 3 now? Yeah, they got to win by 4 to cover this game. No way. And just like you said, I'm not rushing to Georgia, but now that it's at 3, I'd hate to say it, I'd take them or nothing, and I want nothing to do with it.
All right, let's go to the Big 12 next up. T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Of course, it's in this venue every year, the Big 12 tournament. Texas Tech, West Virginia. West Virginia 4-point favorites, 145.5 the total in this one. Obviously, this is I want to take Texas Tech here. I haven't run out of opportunities to try to make some money with Texas Tech. The question now is going to be, the Mark Adams suspension. He said a racially insensitive comment, and they suspended him for it. I don't know how the kids are going to play today. That's the thing. I don't know how they're going to respond. Do they come out and play balls to the wall and give West Virginia a hell of a game, or do they just say, well, we've already had a kind of a disappointing, underachieving season. Our coach just did something he shouldn't have. We've gone through enough shit this year. Let's end it. It could go either way here. So that's the one. It's volatile. If you're going to take Texas Tech, but I do lean that way. I'm not ready to lay 4.5 with West Virginia. What do you think here, Connor?
It's gone out a little bit too far here at 4.5. I don't know how they're going to respond either. Maybe look at this one live if you want to bet it. What's going to happen? West Virginia had 3 out of their last 4, games they won down the stretch. And I think they do here. Just now at 4.5 is not right. And both these teams, years ago, you never see a total like this. I think it's pretty sharp. It's 145.5, 146, because they've gone over all year long for the most part. So I'll be off there.
Yeah. By the way, Mark Adams is not racist. I don't believe that for a second. He just said something that was just a little bit, construed in a manner that, was not exactly the best. And as a result, he's paying the piper for it. But it is what it is. He doesn't strike me as someone that, of course not. Next up, we've got Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. We got to pick them here, -1 in this game. Total 130, 4.5. Oklahoma State. I kind of like Oklahoma State a little. I think they're a little bit better than the Sooners, but it is Porter Moser, who knows his way around conference tournaments, going back to his time at Loyola Chicago. But he doesn't have Loyola Chicago talent with him here at Oklahoma this year. They've had a tough year here with the. I still think the Cowboys are the side. I'd prefer Oklahoma State in this one at a pick 'em. I'd definitely lean under in this game. I think it's definitely one of those games where it's going to be points at a premium with two teams that are better defensively than they are shooting the ball. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, I look at the under with these two, and they kind of stayed under this number or below. Defensively at times, though, both teams can slip. But they both don't shoot it well. Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's beat them twice. Oklahoma, all the money is on them. It's crazy, and this line's moved to 1.5, and I guess a little buyback. There's still a few 1.5s. Tricky. I'm going to be off.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. All right, we only have a few games left. Every show, Nate Rogers. We welcome you in, Nate. Good stuff. Thanks for joining us. But he's asking, what do you think about Texas Tech versus West Virginia? We've literally talked about that game like 60 seconds ago or 2 minutes ago. So, yeah, rewind, Nate, and you'll definitely get our opinion on that game because we are going through every game, some of them in quicker fashion. Next up, we've got this should be interesting, this one, Connor. Big Sky. We're going to have a bid to the tournament awarded. Big Sky Conference Championship game. Northern Arizona. What a ride for this Lumberjacks team as they beat out Eastern Washington. They knock off Montana, who's been one of the best teams in this conference for years. The number 1 seed, Eastern Washington. They've been a dragon slayer here in this tournament. Do they have one more upset in them against Montana State tonight, the Bobcats, and Danny Sprinkle, my favorite coach name in college basketball. Montana State, 7.5-point favorites, 135. To me, you either have to ride the wave with NAU or nothing. I mean, how do you step in front of NAU? They've caught lightning in a bottle. They actually played decently down the stretch of the season. They knock off the number 1 seed, Eastern Washington. They beat Montana. I mean, their defense is playing well. They're shooting like crazy.
That's crazy. I wanted to touch on this team to score in the 80, like with their last 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, they're scoring like they're Gonzaga here in these last couple of games. It's absolutely insane. But look, ride the wave, and for that reason too, I think the total's getting bet down a little too low now, 135, with the way that this team offensively is feeling it right now at Northern Arizona. So I like the over a bit. 7.5. It's as much as I love Montana State and I've been backing them a lot. Not at 7.5. Not with the magic NAU's got to go. Maybe they run out of gas today. You always worry about this with these Cinderella teams, but at 7.5, you still maybe got enough wiggle room. You could take Northern Arizona again tonight to hang around. Plus, keep in mind Montana State double overtime last night in their game, or not?
Yeah,
I don't know if it was. Did it go to? I'm trying. I think it did.
Yeah.
It did go to overtime in their game with Weber State. And I saw
60,
the end of it.
Yeah.
Intense game. Every possession was contested. That wears you out. And now you got to come back 24 hours later and lay 7.5. It might be tough to build margin here for Montana State. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Real quick on the total, because how tired these guys are. And then Montana State played to that. They didn't shoot it great. You got to think they play better. And the defense is one thing. Northern Arizona's still not there. In these wins, they've just been lights out shooting it. The defense has been better. They're still giving up points. So I wonder in a championship game, does this stay under, and it's tight, or there's enough scoring with these two? I think it can get over. I think it's just maybe too light here. I'd take the 7.5. And Montana State's better. And then the 2 meetings, though, 1 point game, and the other, I think they lost by 13. But I got to take the hot team. It just, does the shooting kind of stop? That's the only thing here with Northern Arizona, but take the 7.5.
That's the nature of these conference tournaments. You play every day. There's a game pretty much if you advance, and you could just catch fire and then not be stopped for like 3-4 days. And we're seeing another example of this with Northern Arizona. So, and this is on ESPN2. It's a championship game. So a Big Sky Conference champion, one of these two teams is going to the NCAA tournament with a win tonight. So this game is on ESPN2, 8:30 p.m. Pacific time tonight. A very late game, but one I'll be watching, 100%, no doubt about it.
Yeah, two teams too, Babana, real quick, both good against the number.
Yeah.
So it's tough because Montana State all year has been good for me, but Northern Arizona, especially in conference play, comfort numbers, 19-12.
Absolutely. Yep. So something's got to give there in that regard. All right. MEAC quarterfinals. We'll do both of these games at the same time here, Connor. South Carolina State, Howard, Delaware State, NC Central. And the first game with Howard, I think Howard wins. I don't want to lay 7.5. I put Howard in some money line parlays. I've got a split between the Howard team total over and the Howard SC State full game over 155. So I've got a little on both, a little on the Howard team total over and a little on the full game over 155. I do think they'll score and score rather easily here against this South Carolina State team. And then in the other game, Delaware State, NC Central. I think NC Central definitely wins that game. 11.5 the Lavelle Moton every year as teams do well, especially in this conference tournament. But I'm going to use them more as a money line parlay piece. That's really what I'm going to look at here. The over in that Howard game, and maybe use money line parlay pieces for Howard and for NC Central. What do you think there, MEAC quarters?
Yeah, Howard could just outscore him. I'm not going to lay 7.5 with Howard. I just that's how they got to win, is just outscore him. They're still not great defensively, but it's tough to take South Carolina State and trust them, even though I lean the points there. The other one, I think North Carolina Central gets it done, but I'm not laying 11.5 in that one. That total's come down too. Yep. 3 points. So
yeah, it has big move on that total. NC Central won't push pace, that's for sure. So they're going to play in the half court. Pretty good defensive team. So I think they're seeing that and why this total's been bet under. This next total's been bet under. It is the Patriot League championship game. I don't know if it's the right move. Has anyone been watching this Colgate team? They're a machine offensively. They will look to punch their ticket. I am sure they will. I mean, this would truly be a shocker if Colgate goes down, but they are hosting the Patriot League championship against Lafayette. Colgate 14-point favorites. Now, this is a true home game for Colgate. This is on their home floor, 133.5 the total. I like the over at 133.5. I'll tell you that now, because I've been on Colgate in their first 2 games over the total in this conference tournament. They're just lighting it up, scoring at will. 80s, 90s.
This total's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
How's it that
I think
low?
It's way too low. I don't know. I mean, Lafayette, real quick, I don't think, they think maybe they don't score 60, but this one was stuck out to me today.
It did. It's too low to me. And I know Lafayette is a little offensively challenged at times. They play half court. They slow it down. They're a slow-paced team. I get it. But, boy, I mean, Colgate is the better team, and the better team usually dictates the pace. They'll get up and down. The Matt Langille's team should be able to get, as they did against Army. They scored 80s and 90s in the game before that, too, when they played, I believe, Loyola, Maryland. I mean, they've just been lighting it up here offensively. They're a great offensive team, great movement. The ball never sticks in one place. Fun to watch that Colgate team play offensive basketball. I think they get 80s here once again. And like if they get 80, all you're really going to need out of Lafayette is get to the mid 50s. Okay. And you're going to have a chance to get this game over the total at 133.5. And keep in mind too, nobody's quitting. Lafayette's down 20 with 10 minutes to go. They're not quitting. This is the season on the line. You got to win this game to go to the NCAA tournament. So there's no QUIT with in a game like this, in my opinion. So I think the points can come late as well, even if Colgate's up by a big margin. And that's the thing, too. I watched these Colgate games, Army and Loyola, Maryland. They were blowouts for Colgate, and the points still kept flowing late in the game, even when they were up big. Did. So I think that's going to help the over here. I think it's just too low with 133.5. What do you think here, Connor?
And it'd be different because, like, the 2 games that go from it, because they went over most of the year, Lafayette, with these totals, kind of like, or even in the 120s. They had those 2 against Army. They scored 43, and they lost in Navy February 1st, 53-34. But, I mean, other than that, as long as they don't have kind of one of those days, which I don't see happening, full game over here. And I lean Lafayette. It's tough. Colgate wins. It's just a shit ton of points here, but I'd take the 14 with them.
See, every time didn't I take Loyola, Maryland against Colgate? I did, and they didn't cover. And I took Army against Colgate, and they didn't cover. So I'm not doing it again. But I understand it is a lot of points. But Colgate is that good right now,
especially when they're on.
Yeah, especially they score 80 or 90. Good luck against them. They're going to be fun to watch in the NCAA tournament because I assume they're going to win this game, and they're going to be a pain in the neck for somebody on that opening weekend. Colgate. No question about that. All right, good stuff. That is the Wednesday card. Tomorrow's a huge slate. We're looking forward to tomorrow because tomorrow there's going to be like 4 or 5 games before it even hits 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow on the West Coast. You got games at 8 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, and then a bunch at 9 a.m. Pacific. So tomorrow's really going to be insanely wall-to-wall with college basketball conference tournaments. We'll be here at our normal time, 5 p.m. Eastern. Remember, if you want your early game fix, Jimmy the Bag has you covered on Betting with the Bag at 11 a.m. Eastern. He's going to mostly focus on the early games, the afternoon games, and then we come in, Conor and I, and we get you through the night games here on Net Profit. So that seems to be the schedule we're kind of going with here this week on the two shows. Good stuff. Hit the like button. 196 live viewers. We appreciate it. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. We'll be right back with best bets to wrap up the show right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101, and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports, 20% off your purchase and free shipping at manscaped.com with promo code PubSports. Michael's asking Texas A&M Corpus Christi over. That game started already, so that's why we didn't talk about it. So there you go. I know it's hard to keep track. There's games like crazy time of days, 4:30 Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, it's hard to keep track, Michael. But yeah, that game's off the board.
Close game. Already. There's 3 minutes left, 31-30 or.
Yeah, I am on Corpus Christi money line in that game. So I didn't bet the total, but I'm on Corpus Christi money line there in that one against Northwestern State. Good game here with the Mountain West, Air Force and UNLV. Finally, some offense now, 36-36 with 13 minutes to go in the second. You know what's funny? UNLV for years, it seems, they play Air Force in the first round of the Mountain West tournament, and they always have a tough game against them. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I took Air Force. Like Air Force gives this team fucking fits in the Mountain West tournament. They seem to play each other every year in it.
Yep, definitely. George Washington too. St. Joe's has come back a little bit. Bunch of points there in that one.
Yep, no doubt. I've got both of them on in front of me right now, those two games. So, yeah, definitely love it. Love this time of year. Hopefully we're loving our best bets. We got a bunch of them for you coming up here. Conor, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
There's a bunch that I'm on today, but South Carolina, take the 7. I got to do it. They're two bad teams, but 7 points too much. Slow game. South Carolina Gamecocks +7.
All right, there we go. South Carolina +7 against Ole Miss for Conor Mack with his best bet. My best bet for this card, I'm trying to see what is the absolute single best bet that we can go with here on this card. Let me just see. Let's go with that Lafayette Colgate over 133.5. I'm going to go with that. I just think it's extremely low. Now that total with where it is, I almost used Texas Tech for best bet, but I said, I'm not going to use Texas Tech. We're going to go with this Lafayette Colgate over 133.5. UTSA Rice, I considered that for the over as well, but I'm going to as the best bet. But we'll go with that Lafayette Colgate. To me, that is just a little bit too low with how much Colgate is scoring right now at will. So Lafayette Colgate over 133.5. That is going to be my best bet in the Patriot League tournament championship game tonight. So there you go, best bet.
You mentioned the Rice, Urbana. I mean, this team lost 7 of their last 8. They're laying 7. I know UTSA is bad. They won their last couple though. Yep. Charlotte, FIU. That total was high. I still think it can get over, but yeah, 7 points. Wow.
Yeah, the more I look at it too, you're right. That UTSA side is not a bad option to go with either. Here in this game, no doubt. All right, great stuff. That is the Wednesday College Basketball Net Profit Show. We're back tomorrow on Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Conor and yours truly once again for the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Join us then. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button. For Conor, Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off at the South Town 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.